What's going on, creators? Yeah, just want to get on here and bring everybody back to now. Appreciate y'all being here and vibing with me for a bit. Yeah, today I'd like to talk a little bit about placing your attention and how important it is to put your attention towards people that are demonstrating more attributes of heaven than hell, is one way to look at it. Also, just like people that are at elevated states of consciousness in a area that you are desiring to grow and evolve. For example, maybe your relationship, your money game, the whatever, all these little key areas of life. There's somebody at a higher level than you, and maybe where you're at feels good for the moment, but I feel like part of life is growing and evolving different things. Especially once you stop living in total fear and hysteria and just constantly blaming the system or the they for holding you back, and all these limiting beliefs and excuses that I hear just running rampant in that truth community, for example. It's like I can't listen to a lot of that shit because it's so limiting and self-defeating. And it's like really, that's how you're going to choose to navigate the fucking life that God gave you to live, with this constant victim mentality, putting the they on this pedestal, and like ultimately just enslaving yourself, looking at everything through a lens of negativity, and like, slave mindedness, where it's just like, oh, you're just never going to get ahead, and it's rigged, the system's out to get you, and there's like, this problem and this problem. And not to say that that doesn't exist, these dead corporate entities and this egoic kind of consciousness that is obvious on some levels. What do they call it, the mass formation psychosis type shit, where people are just parroting nonsense narratives that defy common sense, I guess, is one way to look at it. It's like all this kind of shit. Yeah, it exists, but like if you constantly just lived in a toilet, you would think all people did is piss and shit all the time. And that would be your perspective of life. Growing out of that, is letting a lot of those limiting beliefs go and realizing there is nothing holding you back, because it's God that gives you everything. Whatever you're experiencing in your life is a direct reflection of your consciousness, but more importantly, your relation to God in relationship to that physical manifestation. Because everything actually is rooted spiritually first in your own consciousness. It's like everything that you have now is a demonstration of exactly where you're at, like it or not. But the problem with most people is they've created things unconsciously which they don't desire and actually hate and are wrestling with, and are just either just living in these fearful scenarios, these hysterical things that keep manifesting, because everything's always just being done to you as a direct result, as a direct correspondence to your state of consciousness and the mental narratives that just go on. Some people just unconsciously throughout the day of just like maybe attacking other people, attacking yourself, this negative self-talk, putting yourself down. Comparison is a big problem that can start to happen, where you put people on pedestals and feel like you're not at the same potential as another person. It's like I feel like we all have potential to do things. It's just a matter of how much awareness and time and love you dedicate to a specific area, is how much that demonstrates then that consciousness. Like playing guitar is a good example. It's like you have people day one learning how to play it, then you have people that have dedicated decades to learning and experimenting and playing and learning different styles. And it's like the more that you get into it, the more you realize there's so many things you don't know. Like, for example, it's like you could be really like focused on playing lead guitar, but then there's a whole fucking area of like rhythm styles and finger picking styles that are just very rhythmic, and being very weak and basic in that area. I see that a lot with guitar players, where it's like this illusion of trying to be really good, generally kind of demonstrates as I'm going to shove as many notes as I can in a bar. So it's like, oh, look how fucking good I am. It's like I can play at 200 BPMs at fucking full up and down the neck, and it's like, oh yeah, he's fantastic, look how many notes he can cram in there. But it becomes like, where does that evolution go to next? It's like it just playing fast, so it just sounds like just fucking quick notes. It's like, is that really what people desire to hear, or is that just like a, I don't know, almost feels like a, what is that word? It's like an oddity, and maybe that's not it. There's a word that I can't fucking think of at the top of my head, but it's just like, oh, that's unusual and interesting for a second. It's like when you see like a 6-year-old fucking playing like the Eruption solo, like Van Halen. It's like, what the fuck? How'd that kid be able to do that? That's crazy. There's like that kind of like kind of weird appeal to it, but it's like, would you really like just want to just like blast that and kind of tune out of the world for a while and just listen to just, some people maybe, but I guess the point is, it's like if you focus on that, and then it's like, oh, I'm sweep picking, now I'm tapping, now I'm doing this. Even in that, then it starts to grow these different styles of different things and techniques. I'll get on like Facebook groups and like guitar groups and shit, and it's like some people, besides just being fake, where they'll play something and then speed it up. It's like if you can, play something at like 80, like a tempo of like 80 BPMs, and do that, and then speed the fucking tape up to like 160s, like twice as fast. It just makes you seem like you're more at a different level. And it's like the same thing. People are going to do that. It doesn't really matter to me if people do that. It's just, if it's like, okay, because there's a whole lot of trickery and shit you can do in like producing, where it's like, oh, let's quantize that, which means you get it more on beat and shit like that. That's kind of why, like, when I do like the music videos, like playing the guitar covers and remixes or whatever, I like to record it kind of the way they used to, in just like one continuous take, because I feel like it's more real. Because it's easy with the digital shit to, just record like one verse perfectly, one chorus perfectly, and then just copy paste it together. And that's what a lot of like sounds, will be that. I just choose to do it differently because of my own fucking preferences, I guess. But like for the average person, even with like doing music, it's like keeping a service to others mentality. It's like, what would somebody else desire to hear? That's like, they're looking for an external manifestation of something. Well, that external manifestation could be you, and a lot of times people get directed to you on your path, or vice versa, because we're all connected, like through the subconscious is one way to look at it, through the quantum field is another way to say it. But the labels and the words are just limiting on a lot of different levels for something that you can start to know experientially and put your own label on it. And it's like, oh, I get what Mike was saying, I'm going to label it kind of more like this, because my life experience shows me some variation. Some people just like to use whatever they're hearing as contrast to define themselves more. It's like, oh, it's like, I look at like people that are playing like fucking a shitload of notes and as fast as possible. There was a time where I thought that was fucking awesome. It was like when I was like younger, and it's like, holy shit, look at that fucking, how they do that. How you remember what you're even playing. You're playing all these things and then play it twice in a row, really? And so this is like a progression. It's like preferences and shit. But the thing with like moving forward, for me at least, is like really putting attention towards people that are demonstrating a lot of what they're saying. It's like I spent so long in like the truther kind of rabbit hole, where people have all these assumptions and beliefs about how things are, and it's like, okay, well, if you're not able to then demonstrate that to then improve your life, then what is this? Is it just, then you're just listening to curses and spells, and you're kind of, I feel like a lot of like people in the truth community are unconsciously doing the bidding of the very thing they're battling against, in a lot of different ways. Like they're building up the they that they're fighting against, and they're like the only ones that, because it's like, without their take on the they and how they're dominating and enslaving, it's like, okay, in what way? It's like, I get it, because like I'm just playing kind of like a devil's advocate or whatever, because there was like a long time, probably 10 or 15 years, where I was like resisting this beast system and shit, and gotten to the point where I'm like out of it. It's like I'm out of the matrices. As far as I'm concerned, it's like I don't live according to whatever hysterical next talking point is. But realizing that that is actually part of like the collective consciousness, and that confusion can start to be helped on some level by just um, having a contrary point of view, at least, or at least being a voice to stand against that, or at least point out the absurdity in some of the logical claims and shit. But even with claims, there's like a bell curve of like takes that you could have on a specific thing, and you can look at that, in the hologram, the game that we're playing, and you can sit there and like judge it as like, oh, let me resist what is, instead of just being able to observe what is without, you don't have to agree with it, but you can use it to then either define yourself in like, okay, if everybody's being illogical and hysterical and like kind of self-destructing as a result of the hysteria, and not thinking correctly like they would be if they weren't hysterical, it's like you can kind of remind them, as far as like convincing them to like totally like change their mind might be an uphill battle. Yeah, but you could definitely embody the change that you desire to be anyway. And you don't really need people to validate you for your state of mind. It's like you can feel successful, and you can feel free, and you can feel healthy, and you can feel however you choose to feel right now. Because the more you realize that God is the source of whatever you're trying to achieve externally, you hold on to that inner assumption first that you're already blessed. You're blessed now. Everything's working perfectly now. And until you stop the unconscious creating the undesirable, that those programs are just in your consciousness. And when it happens to you, when it's brought to you in the here and now, it's the time to let it go, revise it, be able to, instead of choosing what you normally did, which kept you in this the wheel of recurrence, basically this cycle, this fear cycle constantly confronting you, and like, oh, I'm reacting the exact same way, a lot of times doubling down, and instead of like facing the fear, starting to double down to try to avoid it, or whatever. You can start to change that. But it's like kind of back to that original idea of like these multiple takes on things. It's like a bell curve on a lot of different levels, and so it's not the greatest drawing here, but like it's almost like you have this left-right binary paradigm, and not to sit there and like, oh, one side of the fence is better than the other. So I think there's a tipping point where both of them start to go down the drain into unconsciousness, and that's going to be kind of represented by this dotted line. It's almost like below this threshold is like this force that's putting people asleep. Well, you have this force that is making people more conscious and aware, and more in harmony with who they are in Christ, being love. And so in each one of these points has a archetypal state of consciousness, and both these end up going down the drain. So it's like probably the easiest example would maybe be the left-right paradigm, or like the left and the right. It's just an obvious thing. You can see that as an adult, you start to see more and more of this political division, but both the far left and the far right starts to get into an insanity, into a delusion, and both of it, is asking you to create more of a I need external master type thing. Both sides of this paradigm and this take have different little levels, little gatekeepers down the drain. And it's like, if you keep focused on the top instead of the left and the right, more of like a center, you could almost look at that as like being almost like Christ-like, I guess. It's like, and that might be triggering for people, I guess, but it's like you could look at that as being ultimately a physical embodiment of love, this state of consciousness right here that just is constantly just going up exponentially. And it boils down to one being that's occupying that state of consciousness, where it's like this going down the drain aspect of this paradigm, could be maybe representative of the Antichrist, be fear. And maybe that's just an easier, less triggering way to say that. So it's like you have this apex up here being love, this apex down here being fear, and you have all these states of consciousness and people that are occupying those states of consciousness. Some are dragging other people into more fear and hysteria. And you can look at this too. I've heard some people talk about this as being like the graduated animal farm, where you have, somebody that's either lowering your vibration because they're embodying fear, and for whatever reason you're agreeing with that, and because you agree with it, it starts to bring you down into this. It's almost like once you hit this threshold, then there starts to be like an aspect of crime that could happen. It's like where people will start with their own guilt and shame, start wanting to imprison themselves, and metaphysically and physically having a representation of that in criminal activity, putting themselves in prison and jail. But then but then there's all these states that are like just on that threshold on either side. So it's like we're someone on the left could be really unconscious towards like, well, you've seen that with like the COVID shit. A lot of the unconsciousness and delusion and spells that go with that. Historically, that I've witnessed, on the right, some of the unconsciousness has to do with the applying of violence and force. Bombing. It's like the knee-jerk reaction of, oh, we got a problem, let's kill it, type thing. So there's the unconscious aspects on either side, and you can, go up and down this kind of spectrum too. So it's like, any kind of claim has a correspondence. So it's like if you're like moving this direction up towards this apex, that actually it might be a better representation just to have it going up forever, because it's exponential at this peak right here. But there's this force that is drawing people down the direction towards fear and separation, versus this contrary force moving in more love and unity. And where you put your attention on this, on any claim, you could find evidence for anything. It's like if you want to believe that the moon landing, for example, was a fiction, there's mountains of evidence for that. But then you could look at that on the same spectrum, where you have a take where it's like, oh, let's put that over here. That moon is fake. Well, then you could have this correspondence over here where it shows mountains of evidence showing that every bit of evidence you have is contrary to what someone at this area over here has. And whether it's based in love or fear is how much you're either devolving down this scale or going up it. Ultimately, I feel like kind of the point, moving forward, is in demonstration, moving more and more up the vertical kind of dimension of reality, and that kind of represents that concept and that bell curve on some level. Because for anything anybody is saying, there's a contrary point of view. You could say, oh, government. I don't know, elections. I don't know. You don't want to get too triggering with people, because it's like some people worship the government like it's their god, and any type of like challenge to that authority or whatever is met with instant resistance, almost like you would expect if someone had their faith insulted on some level. Trust the science, it's like the government is the science. And I don't know, it's one of them things though where you start to use that concept to kind of navigate this game and grow your own state of consciousness by looking at everything you already have. Like your body, for example. It's like today you can either choose to be like, this is the last day you're ever going to be this out of shape, and everything moving forward, even if it's just minor moves, is going to start to move you, instead of going down, it's going to start moving you up in your consciousness. And as you start thinking more in terms of like you are already healthy, you are already fit, the first thing to start doing is taking that new action so you can start to reprogram your mind in the face of like these challenges and whatnot. But it's also something you can start to tangibly put on now in the form of letting go of a lot of like, oh, the mental narratives that, oh, you got bad genetics, or you're just like, oh, it's just my lot in life to feel this particular way or look this kind of way, or whatever. It's like you could be on the opposite end of that spectrum, and it's like every day you wake up, it's like this is the best shape I've ever been in my whole life. And that is like has no age requirement. I feel like the older I kind of get, it's like I'm in my late 30s now, and it's like I see a lot of people my age, and it's like what the fuck is going on with you? It's like you don't want to just like talk shit or whatever, but it's like on the other end of it, it's like, are you not taking care of yourself? Or it's like, what's going on? Why are you letting this happen to yourself? And there's all sorts of reasons, but I feel like it's all just a demonstration of an unconscious program anyway. So it's like we're always demonstrating, and you can always discern that demonstration by the fruit of it. According to the Bible, is the easiest way to see whether things are in alignment or not is to look at what does that produce with that mindset. Does that mindset make this us versus them paradigm where everything is evil and everything is controlled and everything is like you're this, you're the outcast or whatever from everything because what it's like I get all that kind of shit from the truth community all the time, and I can't listen to this shit anymore because it's like, wham, you're just like, stop crying about how you think you're such a victim and stop creating the they that you're afraid of. It's like, well, Mike, did you see what the World Economic Forum said? It's like, I don't give a fuck what they said. Who cares? It's like I don't have anything invested with their pen of reality. It's like everybody's in their own fucking reality. It's like you have some people that think that they can rule the world through whatever means, but it's like you have to like allow that for one, and then put people on this pedestal of like, oh, they got power over me. It's like you give away your power. That's like the sin of Adam. It's like you give external things a pedestal that you then obey, and you follow these orders and shit. It's like you are doing it to you, unconsciously in a lot of different ways. But it's like I don't give a fuck about what people these illusions of power have to say, because it's like I'm my own sovereign being. I don't need a master or king to inform me of what I should and shouldn't do. It's like, again, it boils down to your relationship with God if you're able to do that, because it's kind of lonely on some level, because it's common that people want to have someone rule over them and not take responsibility and blame people for like their choices and their decisions. I don't know why. It's just what people do, I guess. But doesn't mean you have to continue to do that. I mean, I guess the point of this is to have other people start to go, hey, wait a minute, yeah, I don't, not to say like you want to overturn the system or anything. I feel like the system in general is there to manage the unconscious behavior of people, especially when they're dipping into like the criminal kind of mindset that's predatory, and people are getting attacked and hurt because people at low levels of consciousness have a foothold on some level. But I feel like even the people that get like attacked by the people at that low level of consciousness on some there's a correspondence to their own fears and beliefs that even open the door for something like that to happen. But again, that's my opinion. And I'm sure there's lots of people. Well, Mike, I was just mugged walking down the street. You're saying I had a role in that. It's like, I don't know. Were you afraid of walking down the street? Were you afraid of getting mugged? Were you afraid of people? It's like afraid of criminals or whatever. It's like it's not uncommon for your fears to come upon you. Especially if you've been holding these beliefs on the inside for a long time. Keep planting those seeds. Eventually, something's gonna fucking pop out of the ground. kind of the same thoughts, but like, looking at, moving forward, it's like, okay, well, if I'm going to listen to people that are demonstrating what they believe all the time, some people are demonstrating how they're a slave and a prisoner to some supposed they that has just assumed power. It's like, okay, well, I don't want to fucking listen to those people. That's bullshit. So what's the alternative? And it's like, okay, well, you need to listen to either nobody. That's an option. Just fill your mental diet with what's going on in the here and now without having others, trying to tell you and inform you of what's going on. That's an option. Might be a very good option, because you can learn a lot just through your own life by just being present and aware of what's manifesting now. And I think once you start to do that, then you can go, okay, all this is happening as part of my own consciousness. It's like all this undesirable shit, all this suffering, all this fucking chaotic energy and whatever. Okay, if my thinking has kind of spurred this unconscious fucking manifestation, then my conscious thinking should have a an obvious result too. And so just in that acknowledgement, and when is that happening now? One of the easiest things to start to do is to take your own wanting to control shit and just trusting that now infinite intelligence is in control, which has been in control the whole time. It's an illusion to think otherwise, but God gives you a lot of free will though to choose states that suck, and so it's like you can choose, like, moving from being cursed, which has all these corresponding states, that could be part of this bell curve too, cursed and blessed, this binary, but it's almost like it's not right and left, it's up and down, on some level, but it's like each, so you might maybe spin that upside down or 90 degrees or whatever, but like, that's something you can start to experiment. To say like, oh, this is how it is, but that's just something that I kind of feel like is observable. Anymore, I'm kind of more into the camp of just what is actually going on in physical reality. What is. Not saying you have to agree with every aspect of what is. It's like there's a lot of shit I don't agree with that I feel like is a fucking not for me, but like, do I want to then destroy it, not let other people fucking pursue that, maybe glean some sort of a understanding from it? That's not for me. It's like to fucking decide that. All I can do is, what am I going to put my attention on? Feeling like a victim, oh, this whole system's out to get me and I'm just some little fucking puss that's just going to take it all the time. It's like, that's not how I think at all, and so it's like listening to other people with just those theories, just those ideas. There's a whole, I feel like there's two worlds going on at the same time. It's like you have the world of the cursed and the world of the blessed simultaneously happening, but it's almost until you fucking stop identifying with being cursed, you don't see this other world. But as soon as you let go of that fucking victim mentality, it's almost like that other world starts to emerge, and it's just like you start getting introduced to new people that also realize that, consciously and unconsciously too. It's like, but there's all different types of people, there's all different kinds of worlds going on, everybody's in their own little world, and everybody is having their fucking faith confirmed, so everybody is like right on some level. So it's like really hard to convince anybody of a different kind of point of view, because a lot of times you get so dug into what you're experiencing, and then next thing you know, it's like you keep seeing that reflection, so it's like, oh, I'm right. So it's like you double down because I'm right. But then if you have the courage to totally step out of that, it's like the beast system, for example. It's like if you want to fucking put your attention to that and satanic shit, you'll see it for a fact. It's like, okay, this feels like a satanic Truman Show, and that will be your fucking distorted perception of creation. A lot of it has to do with fear. A lot of it has to do with not having faith in what God said is real. But like all of that can start to be changed by just asking, God to help you fucking look at things differently, for example. And then, removing your attention and breaking these habits of like this old slave mentality of like, okay, well, let's go have a bitch fest and listen to somebody bitch for 45 minutes about how they're such a victim, and how they're getting fucked over, and why these are the bad man, and why I should feel like like there's no hope, and like oh, this is just my lot in life being a slave. And yeah, that whole fucking thing is just like, okay, I wouldn't listen to somebody in my fucking space talking like that and being around them. Why am I watching someone through a screen that's doing the same thing and getting triggered by it, and whatever? So it's like, okay, we gotta remove attention from this shit. Stop, and my fucking problem with this. Sorry, I'm getting kind of potty mouth here, but it's like, my take on it, at least, it's like, okay, I keep dipping back and hoping that this person, I've dedicated a lot of attention to them. Hopefully they're like experiencing life a little bit more happy, hopeful, heavenly, or whatever. That they're actually pursuing their goals. They're being, doing, and having whatever their heart's desire is. Their dream coming true. But so many people have had their dreams crushed by not realizing how the game works, how these like NPCs will like, and not just like NPCs in like defining it as like not real people, but when people are unconscious and they aren't present, a lot of times they'll just mirror back to us our own fears and hysteria. So if like you're starting a business, for example, you don't, one of the worst things to do is to tell people your goals and aspirations, because they will only mirror a lot of times your fears, your doubts, your indecisions. They'll tell you why they're afraid to do anything besides what's safe in their little box. And it's not helpful. So it's like, okay, well, that's not helpful, so I'm going to do something that is helpful, which is going to keep that between me and my creator. Then God will start laying out the bridges of incidents, not getting hung up on the circumstances, but just holding to the faith of like, you're already blessed. You have this desire because God wants to manifest it through you. You wouldn't have the desire if it wasn't for you. Creation's finished, and so it's about us like taking that assumption into the here and now, that you don't need a politician to save you, because they're just reflecting the consciousness of the area. Whether people want to hear that or not, it's like a lot of people think of the dysfunction in government, but it's like it's a reflection of the dysfunction of culture, and it's the dysfunction of the people. But everybody wants to blame the 1% of people that are demonstrating something else. Oh, it's their fault that I don't have a utopia. It's their fault that there's nothing to do in this town. Oh, it's their fault that you can't do this. It's like always blaming this day. And it's like, well, what are you doing to make your city a better place? Have you started something that is for the benefit of others in your area? No. But I can't get a loan. I can't do these. It's like, you don't fucking need a loan. It's like, why are you falling for that program of like, oh, I need to get $100,000 from the bank so I can start something for the first time. It's like, if you can't figure out a way to make money with your own skill set, then develop some skills. It's like through my business, which has been basically a hodgepodge of just helping people get shit done. Doing handyman work, but it's beyond that. It's just beyond just like, do you need your gutters cleaned out? What do you need? What do you need help with? Anybody, you can wash windows. You can help people clean out their garages. You can clean cars. You can power wash. You can do all sorts of shit that require zero fucking money up front. You can flip furniture. You go to your thrift store. For if you have $20, buy some cleaning material, refurbish some furniture, some wood things. Sand it down, restain it, sell it for a profit. It's like there's all sorts of shit you can do that require zero of this like this bullshit mentality of like, oh, well, first I need a 5-year plan, then I need a business whatever to bring to the bank, and then I need some investors, then I need a team, then I need this. It's like, what can you do right now? It's like, get out of this like imaginary future where this shit is like, oh, I need this and I need this, I need this, I need a company car, I need a company credit card, I need this. It's like, just start fucking doing something, dude. What do you do right now? You can get on Facebook, and like in like my local area, there's like Facebook groups that are set up like little classifieds, like, oh, I need a guy to do this, I need somebody to do this. You can easily get on. You can easily put on a Craigslist ad for a couple bucks or whatever, saying, "Hey, I can do this for you. I can do that." Put an ad on in your local area. Make some flyers up. Go to your network of people. Whatever. There's so much shit you can do. But, people want to keep this victim mentality because they don't know any better. Maybe, I don't know. But it's like that's why I like to get on here and like share these things, because my life has been so abnormal from the people around me that I don't think a lot of people realize what is possible. Because as someone who like pursued a childhood like dream and achieved it, to me it's like anything's possible. It's like seeing how it plays out, and that God provides as a real thing, provides the customers, the situations, the circumstances, everything. And the more that you're just trusting the process of that, more effortlessly and easily the things come together. It's a cooperative thing where you're just not just in a hysterical thing. I'm getting ready to have a surgery or get my hip replaced, and it's like I'll be supposedly in recovery for who knows. I think I'll be pretty fast recovery, really. But it's like, well, how will I make money? How will I do this if I can't do handyman jobs and stuff? And it's like, well, God's going to provide the money, maybe through somebody listening to this, maybe through someone buying a music license, maybe through some royalty check, maybe through, someone just like donating some money, maybe it's through an affiliate link, maybe it's through one of the numerous like revenue streams that I've created over the years that will do it, that God will do it, or maybe it'll just be a unique thing that I don't even see coming. Who knows? Maybe I'll win the fucking lottery or something. Who knows? But like, ultimately, I'm not gonna sit in fear of the future about it, because it's all been part of this process. And so, playing this new game, involves trusting that everything that's happening right now that's being done to you is perfect, which breaks a lot of the matrix programming of like everything being done to me as a tormenting curse. I'm being tormented, Satan's attacking me or whatever. And then getting your own limiting beliefs on the situation, which then compound unconsciously what you don't want to happen. The more what you do want to happen is not to be in control, really. It's like the more that you're able to let go of that and just trust that everything is unfolding from this higher perspective to manifest more and more heaven on earth, that you are just being the observer, I guess, on some level. It's like doing it to you, and that God's going to do it through you on some level, and you're only, I guess, asked to not act like a fearful, hysterical person. But yeah, I think I'm gonna balance. I just want to get on here and kind of share that with you guys. Maybe put it on, maybe not. It don't really bother me what you're doing, but like yeah, I just wanted to share that for the ones that find a benefit from these. And so, with that being said, I think I'm gonna balance. So, thanks everybody for liking, sharing, subscribing, all the social networking stuff, and I appreciate your spiritual support and your financial support, physical support. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Until the next now, God bless.